Attention. Welcome to the Different Spectrums podcast. We dive into the wild world of mental health discussions. Get ready for profound talks, a sprinkle of humor and sarcasm, and a touch of colorful language. Just a quick heads up, our show reflects our individual opinions, which may not align with the standpoint of the podcast, our featured guests, or any related corporate entities. Our mission? To illuminate through laughter and satire because everyone needs a good chuckle. Chill out and don't stress over the small stuff. Legal troubles? No, thank you. Cancel culture? Please spare us. We'd rather keep this space lawsuit free. So buckle up, have a good time, and join us as we navigate the vibrant realm of mental health on the Different Spectrums podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. By using our link, you can get 10% off your first month of therapy. So, Naz, as a therapist on BetterHelp, what has your experience been like?
I've been doing it since January of 2021, and it's been really fun and exciting. I've been able to reach clients all over the United States and the world. I've had good relationships. I've had folks that I've had for a couple months and a good handful where I've had for almost 2 years now. So it's magnificent. I've enjoyed my time and my clients. I love them.
Awesome. You can do it all from your phone or computer via phone call, video chat, or messaging, however you feel the most comfortable. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/DSP or choose Different Spectrums podcast during sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Hey everybody, we back again.
Hey, we're back. We're live.
I'm Spencer. Of course, we have our licensed clinical therapist, Naz.
Hey, Big Pappy.
Remember, don't take us too seriously.
Oh, dude, it's completely up to you.
Also, don't forget to rub those likes for us. We'd really appreciate it. So, today, this is a special pod, right?
Special.
Right?
Special. Yeah, special.
Right?
Right? Huh? Capiche?
Uh, this is a show that we were just on called Analyze Scripts Podcast. Go check them out. The hosts are Katrina, who's the MD, and then Portia, or Portia, who's a social worker. Great show. They were awesome to have us. And, we might have, as usual, been a little overstimulated. Just a little bit. A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. A little bit. But yeah, we were able to talk about Not Dead Yet show right here. It was a nice pod. It was great talking to him about this, and we talked about some other subjects in there that I'm not, remembering. But it was a great show, and we were able to do it. So yeah, Nazir.
So what we focused on specifically Edward, which is the autistic character. There's not only autistic coded in the show, but also the actor that plays him is also autistic himself and a really big comedian. And so we wanted to join them. Well, actually, they invited us, so we joined them because they invited us. And we did a collaboration, of spreading the STI around, the infection of what we are as a podcast. So I'm sorry. We're oozing everywhere,
Oh my God. Ooze.
Ooze. Ooze. Ooze. O's. We're brothers. So it's a magnificent kind of first season. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't the biggest fan of the second season. First season was really good when it comes to Edward, autism, her trials and tribulations of being a Latina, being let go of her job. So it's a really fun pod, magnificent women, wonderful psychiatrist in Katrina. She talks a lot. And then we have Portia, because I don't know how to fucking read. Magnificent social worker, very kind. And it's a little bit more quiet.
Does that remind you of anybody?
It's a little cat dog situation.
Cat dog.
Yep.
Cat dog.
So hopefully you enjoy them just as much as you always enjoy us. They're highly intelligent people. They're more of a little bit pedagogy and more teaching compared to us.
Yeah.
So before we get into the show and some magnificent clips of Edward, I just want to share a quick story.
Of course.
Spencer. So the other day, I got a student, magnificent young woman, magnificent.
Yes.
But she likes to run a lot, right? She's a runner. She exercises a lot, right? We're dealing with a lot of stuff. But since she is this runner, she's very thin and all that stuff. And I said, girl, a song came on the other day. She's a runner, she's a track star. And I said, I thought of you, the runner and track star, right? I said, she's like, oh man, I can't believe you thought of me the other day. She said, I was thinking about you too and all the stuff that we talked about. I said, yeah, girl, we good, we tight. And then Spence.
Yeah.
I heard on like some show, like she's a runner. And I said, what's a runner? And they made a reference, she was slutty. She was a Hewitt. Did you know that being a runner or a track star for any gender is the sexuality is promiscuous?
I didn't think they were just saying, yes, she runs a lot.
I thought she runs a lot. I took it literal.
Hey, she gets those miles in. Let me tell you.
She's running from dude to dude. That's what the reference is.
Yeah.
I just called my student a hooah.
Yeah, but she didn't know.
She didn't know. But like, I don't want her to like say this to like our friends.
I'm a runner. I'm a track star.
I'm a runner. I'm a track star. She gave me like, girl, you calling yourself?
Oh,
yeah. I just let's shame my client. Jesus.
Unknowingly, you didn't know.
No.
Right now you know, but I probably wouldn't tell her that.
So don't bring it up.
Take away. Personally, probably not. I mean, like you could, like if she says it again, references back to it, you definitely be like, "Hey, by the way, don't say that."
Remember, just like you can't say the N word. This is also something else you can't say.
Remember, don't say the N word. Don't say you're a runner or
track star.
Two things.
People don't get the different thoughts. Don't say it around no black folk. No folks of color.
It's true. White people would be like, yeah, you are. You do run a lot. You have a lot of cardio.
Yeah, my autistic is shit, boy. I took that literal. That's why I don't like rap. This was wrong with rap today. Black people.
I don't like the messages.
You know. I don't know, man.
Stop talking about your traumas.
Traumas and your drugs. Oh my God, I fucked that one up, Spence.
Yeah, well, happens.
Fucking dumbass. So everyone, that's the story for today. Enjoy the pod. It's fucking hilarious. We get kind of derailed a lot about autism, but like it is what it is. Because their pods are shorter. So it's only a 50-minute pod. So talk to y'all soon. Enjoy the special sauce. Whoop whoop.
Semen?
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop.
Jesus. All right.
It's caramel. Did you go to Stanford?
Yeah. Why are you eating the chocolates I got for my girlfriend?
Because for my birthday and I thought you got them for me.
No. Gross. I'm going to San Diego without chocolates to visit my girlfriend. So please remember to walk Arthur and use compostable poop bags instead of telling the dog just to hold it. And if you raise the heat above 68, the nest will alert me.
Aye, Captain.
Do you have any plans for your birthday?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna throw a massive rager, and I'm thinking getting a couple of kegs and maybe even a reggae band, and I'm gonna do it right over there by your Peloton.
No, you can't do it here. We have an agreement. Your lease specifically states that any guests need to be pre-authorized. You're joking?
Obviously. Dude, what do you have, like Asperger's or something?
I do.
You do? Oh my God, I am so sorry I said that.
I don't. You thought I had Asperger's?
I mean, kinda.
I do. All right, have a good weekend. Reminder, we made a deal that you were going to walk Arthur by 8 a.m. if you're going to live here.
An adult roommate. That tracks. I'm glad you brought up the rules. I'd like to make an amendment to move the Peloton out of the dining area so that we can do a proper kitchen table.
Why? There's plenty of places you could eat. Eat in your bedroom. Or you could eat on the couch if you put a blanket down. You could even eat in the bathroom if you're a monster.
Or the breakfast bar if it wasn't so covered in your weird little piles.
No, these are important legal briefs, okay? I'm working on a case. Don't put the bowl on the handles, please.
My job is important too, but you don't see me hogging up all the eating area.
Really? Are you trying to block construction of a minor league baseball stadium on a marsh that's home to the endangered southwestern willow flycatcher, which controls insect population around waterways and wetlands?
I could if I wanted to.
No, I'm trying to save something that's alive. I'm not writing book reports about dead people. All right, have a nice day.
Are you really gonna let that tall piece of broccoli walk all over you like that?
I'm not letting him walk all over me. He's on the spectrum, and honesty is part of his personality. I watched a TikTok about it. Hi. Let me move my flurskader.
Thanks.
Yep. I'm sorry I said you were annoying.
It's fine. It's better if people are straightforward with me anyway. Oh my gosh. My girlfriend says I'm annoying all the time. She also says that obituaries aren't book reports for dead people because they offer closure and comfort, which I never really thought of, but I guess is true.
Yeah, starting to see that now, too.
I'm gonna clip out.
Okay.
If we're gonna live together, I think it's best that we work on our communication a bit.
I'm down with that.
Hopefully it'll help me better understand your irrational and erratic mood swings. Also, your obsession with tables.
You're not gonna let the table go, are you?
Autistic people just hate tables now.
Really?
No, I'm joking. I beg you. Please, stop getting all your information from TikTok.
But it's so quick and trendy. Hey, could you read this bit that I'm working on?
Sure, it's not like I'm trying to do anything important like beat Yusheng Du's world record.
Great.
Piper Ashford died?
You knew her?
I follow her.
Of course you did.
She thinks deforestation's super sadsies.
I think Al Gore said the same thing.
Huh. I'm sensing some sarcasm there, huh?
I grew up with Piper. She was a real butt munch. But now, luckily, I understand that she was, just jealous.
They're just jealous of you is an empty platitude that parents tell their kids to make them feel better. I had 27 childhood bullies, and they were all very well adjusted.
Neat. Great. Can you please read this? It's for the front page.
It's great.
Really?
It's cold and dry. It's like a list of bullet points without any human emotion. I connect strongly to it.
Awesome. Thanks. Oh?
Deep garnet color. Fruit punch. Pipe tobacco. Velvety tannins, old world. Southern Italy. Is this a 2016 Primitivo?
Yes.
I hate it.
How do you know so much about wine?
Well, when I was trying to get my girlfriend, I read an article in Glamour. 10 Things Women Love. Wine was at the top of the list. So, naturally, I learned everything I could about it. Unfortunately, however, she doesn't drink.
It's too bad you're out of town this weekend.
I'm not. She asked me not to come.
Why?
Women are complex. Like a 2019 Bordeaux. Oh, can't turn it off.
So you can help Cricket. Huh?
I did get a new shirt.
Oh.
No tag, super soft. I'm very excited to get into it.
Okay.
Yay! You guys are gonna love it. Oh, me and my friends always steal from all the booths. But not yours, of course. Hey, really? You know, it's so crazy that we've been living together for a few months and I don't even know what city you were born in.
That's not crazy. I was born in Cleveland.
Cool, so as a kid in Cleveland, did you have any pets?
Yeah, I had a hamster named Hamster.
Adorable. Last question, what's your mother's maiden name?
No.
What?
You're trying to steal my Hulu password.
No, I'm not trying to.
That's identity theft now.
Come on, everybody does it. It's not a big deal. It's like stealing a fun glass from a bar or sneaking a roasted chicken into a movie theater.
As a lawyer, I'm going to recommend that you quit talking before you confess to any more crimes. Speaking of crimes, I notice you use a lot of toilet paper in the bathroom. No, I wasn't going to say anything because, frankly, I don't know where to begin, but I think it would be best if you could please just keep the bathroom stocked. Okay, listen, I'll amortize my share from the... What are you doing?
I'm packing my lunch.
That's not lunch. That's oyster crackers in a jar of peanut butter.
I don't get paid until Friday, and I'm 3 payments behind on my student loan, so I'm gonna have to make do. Thank God I picked these tomatillos from the community garden.
We don't have a community garden? You just picked that from somebody's yard.
Oh, call the produce police. Bye.
It's a slippery slope.
You never want to watch Extreme Pack Rat with me.
Are you kidding? I love when people keep their urine in jars.
Speaking of, I have to use the little girl's jar. Can you pause it for me?
Yeah, I could turn it off. I could guess how this ends. She gets her life together and goes to her daughter's wedding.
Oh. There he is. No, don't you? No, no. Stop it! I wanted to eat those crumbs.
I like Charlotte. She's kind and she's smart and she's thoughtful. She's always making my favorite cookies.
I totally agree. Charlotte is great.
There's some other pressing issues. She's soaking the cast iron skillets in the water. I could hear them oxidizing from here.
So why don't you just tell her it's not that big of a deal?
You're right. Will you do it?
Huh?
Just tell her how to clean the pans and to always use coasters and to turn off the water when she's brushing her teeth.
You want me to be the you?
Yes. Be the me. I don't want to scare her off with all my... I mean, they're totally reasonable requests, but I want this to work. Now.
Fine. Yeah. I'll be the you. But if Charlotte moves in, I want rent split 3 ways, not 2.
Fine.
And I get to have as many ice cubes as I want, hum in the morning, and paint my toenails in the living room.
You could paint, but no pumicing.
I can't promise you anything.
Taking Charlotte on a romantic picnic at the observatory before a trivia night. She came up with a good team name, Roomies.
Cool. Your neck looks really angry. You okay?
Fine, I'm just trying to get used to this poncho Charlotte got me. She said I look like Keanu Reeves in Point Break. I looked it up, and he's very hot.
I thought you only wore cotton.
You only wear cotton.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just very tired.
Hi now. You ready, Johnny Utah?
Yeah, I love the way that feels. 100% pure adrenaline. Come on, let's go.
Bye.
Yeah. Have fun.
Surf's up. What?
Look, I know you only think of me as your roommate, but I think of you as my friend. And as your friend, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. What you're doing is not healthy. Hiding who you are, you're not just lying to Charlotte, you're lying to yourself.
Now I'm 35 years old, and I'm tired of being alone. And I could tell that you like this version of me better anyway.
I genuinely like the real you. You're smart, and you're funny, and you're wildly honest, which can be really frustrating, but it's also so very refreshing. If you really want to give this relationship a chance, you gotta show Charlotte who you really are. Okay, you both deserve that.
Okay, I trust you.
Okay. Also, by the way, I did forget to pay the electric bill. I'll see you inside.
It's like living with a child.
Don't be...
I had no idea that you knew so much about all that stuff you knew about.
Charlotte, my nephew isn't a doofus. I'm a doofus. If this relationship is going to work, I think you need to know that I'm a video game playing, Rubik's Cube solving, action figure collecting nerd. And also, Nell isn't the one who's particular about skillet care. I am. Yeah, also this poncho, it feels like sandpaper and I'm going to take it off. Forever. Oh. And I do magic. Is this your coaster? It is now.
There he is. I am so happy that we're being honest because I have been holding back some things as well. Edward, I know you're an environmental lawyer, but I hate these paper straws. They're completely useless. Besides, how much can one person really do for the environment anyway? And does recycling really matter? Whew. I'm gonna go get us some real straws.
I'm gonna have to tell my parents I'm sleeping with a turtle murderer. Oh my gosh. Are you eating shards of glass?
It's bunchberries.
Oh, could you please chew them a little quieter or add some marshmallows? I'm working and I really need to concentrate.
Sorry, we're not all environmental warriors trying to save the world every second of the day. Neither are you. What is this? Green Swipe, a dating app for Earth lovers?
Yes, I want my lover to love her mother. After Charlotte, I don't want to hide the real me anymore. I want any potential ladies to know the real Edward, so I need this profile to be the epitome of me. You should consider it. Everything okay?
Huh? Yeah. Why?
You talk to yourself when you're upset sometimes? You've been doing it since you moved in?
Oh, I didn't know that you heard me do that. Oh, you must think I'm so weird.
Not really. I just figured that's how you work things out for yourself.
Philip thinks it's sort of dark.
You shouldn't let Philip change you too much.
What do you mean? I thought you loved Philip.
Yeah. For me. Not for you, though, because you're different with him.
What? No, I'm not. That's...
Yeah. You kind of shrink when he's around. He forced this whole dinner party on you, and then you'd let him finish your stories, and you don't even want to watch your favorite shows. It's not like you. You're usually much more snarky and obstinate.
I thought you liked me better when I'm with him. No shoes on the floor or Cheeto dust on the walls or whatever.
No, I'm used to the Cheeto dust. It's how I know you're home. I mean, you're the one that told me the person you're with should want to be with you, not some easier version of you that they're okay with. Do you want one of these?
You like Badger Island, right?
Only the third season when it's on ice.
Hey everyone, I wanted to give a special shout out to our collaborator, Two Nerds Candle Company. Not only do they have great products, but they are also giving back to a great cause. You can tell that they take a lot of pride in making their candles. My favorite is Spock's Monday Coffee. They are also donating 10% annually to support Women in STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. You can use our code DSP or go to our link tree to get 20% off your entire order. We think that this company is great, and we think you will too. So go check them out.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Analyze Scripts. We're so excited that you're joining us, and we're so excited that our two guests are joining us. We have Dr. Naz and Spencer from the Different Spectrums podcast. So they release new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Wow, which I think is a lot of work. So that's impressive. Now, right now in our video, they're holding up fun objects, which I like. Wow, I like all these objects. So to tell you a little bit more about them, Naz is a clinical mental health therapist on a mission to help individuals conquer their challenges. He has a therapeutic toolkit, including CBT, strengths-based, and solution-focused approaches. And he navigates the intricate systems that lead clients to his office, offering all sorts of different types of counseling. If you're not watching this episode on YouTube, first of all, why not? Second of all, please rate, review, and subscribe. And third of all, you're totally missing out all the cool stuff on Dr. Naz's wall behind him, like a really fun panda, a chill pill, lots of cool art, which I have to say I really like. And then we have Spencer. He is a talented marketing professional with a passion for making people smile, which he's already done with us for the first 20 to 30 minutes as we were gabbing. It looks like he's really into social media, marketing, SEO. Spencer, do you want a job? Because we need help with all of this.
Maybe.
Things.
Hey, you got some money?
Well, a little bit. I got a lot of student loans, but anyway, so they're joining us. We're really excited. We've found them on Instagram. Which I'm late to the social media game. I think because I was in training for so long and just living in the basement of a hospital. But it's really a cool way to meet people. I know this is a hot take, but we're meeting all these really interesting people who are also in the mental health field, who also love to watch TV and movies and analyze them. So we're really excited to meet you guys and to have you on. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for the great intro, and thank you for having us on. Yeah.
Shout out to ChatGPT for writing those bios.
Yeah, that was
Shout
definitely
out.
not just like, oh yeah, he definitely does all this stuff with his
Yeah.
with his clients. You're like,
Yeah, ChatGPT, if you
I
want
don't
to
know why we
sponsor
didn't
us.
do that either. Like
I
I,
know.
I spent hours trying to. Well, that's not a good word.
What is the
Hello?
synonym?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. All right. So today we're going to be analyzing the show Not Dead Yet, which I was just telling them before we logged on, in addition to talking about Beyonce and the song Survivor and
Pants.
Single Ladies and Levi jeans and House of Darion jeans. And we've gotten into a lot already. But we were saying like it's really nice to focus on something more upbeat when we've been covering a lot of really dark topics lately. So I'm thrilled to get into analyzing this show and specifically the character of Edward, who is portraying autism spectrum disorder. We haven't yet covered that really on our podcast, but we've really wanted to. And so we're really excited to talk about it with you guys.
What did
Autism.
you? I also wanted to mention too that there are still dead people in this show. So we, it's fun
Wow.
and it's light, but we still somehow cannot get away from
Ghosts,
just
death,
just
ghosts,
death, I guess,
grief,
so.
loss, wine.
Yeah, it's a fun death though. It's
Right.
it's not sad death. It's more of like, hey, you got hit by a churro cart.
You fell off a cliff taking a selfie. Yeah. Like that kind of death, not like the chained in a basement lit on fire death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that's probably darker than a churro cart, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
They have natural
So-
causes.
Mhm.
Yeah, the fire was natural.
Yeah. They die of natural causes, not from white people.
Oh my God.
I mean, all the scary stuff. Let's be real. Okay, I'm done.
Did you guys watch the show Beef at all on
Yes.
Netflix?
Yeah, we actually watched it together.
Yeah.
Oh, we love that show, and that's one thing my husband said. He was like, "Finally, the white person dies first."
We got him.
True.
Yes.
Finally,
Mission accomplished.
this one time.
Thank you, Mr. Bush.
Yes.
Beef was intense.
So why don't we start? I would love to just hear kind of your guys' perspective on the show and the character of Edward.
Nazir.
Yeah, no. Dr. Nas. No.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't even know how I came across this show. I think I came across it because she's been in multiple different shows now, and they were like big hits.
Gina Rodriguez.
Yeah. So
So she was a cop, right? She was on a cop show.
She was also on that.
Virgin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh, Jane the Virgin.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was like her
Okay.
big boom thing. So I was like, okay, let me click on this. And because I watched a lot of like the real CBS, NBC, all those like prime channels, right? I watched the sitcoms on there because they're pretty good. So I'm checking it out. I'm like, okay, dude's autistic. First episode. I'm hooked. And then, I enjoyed her character. I enjoyed the other kind of the romance thingies too, but like the pitfalls, she's being an idiot. So she's not like this Barbie type figure that we see a lot of women being portrayed as in TV. She's just trying to figure it out. And life is going to shit. Average like body type, like all of it is very like just easy to watch. Also, her friend, I forget her name in the moment, is also, this is one of the big reasons, she's one of the stars of New Girl. And so that's what, she really attracted me to that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch her just to see what she does. Because all the other characters from New Girl, like I watch their shows too, just to see how they are. So that's
I
what.
think is that Sam,
Yeah.
Yes.
her friend? Yeah, played
Yeah.
by Hannah Simone. Yeah.
Yep. So that's what also drew me in. And then what kept me there was like Edward. And, they always portray autism as like this cold affect, like unwilling to be intimate or to talk to people, to, come around to be warm. And so I was like, okay, I can already see the character arc is they're going to both hate each other and then they're slowly going to love each other. Like, I get it. We see that in a ton of different movies and shows. And that's what does end up happening. Overall, I told you season 1 was magnificent to me. I think later on, I end up seeing that the comedian, the dude who plays Edward, actually is autistic. And I saw him on a podcast in real life. Like he's legit autistic in real life. And so he talks about the struggles of being autistic, right? The things, because he got diagnosed later in life. And how has that been for him? And then now he gets to be this comedian, this dude, this actor that plays a figure. And so what a lot of autistic folks are talking about is, how come it isn't our folks playing our roles? It's the same thing when like, why you got these white voice actors playing like brown roles? Why am I watching a show where it's supposed to be Egyptian? And it's like, what the hell's the guy? Mark Wahlberg?
Matt Damon? Oh.
Matt Damon. Yeah. Matt Damon being in like oil tan. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And so that's what drew it to me even more. I grew more appreciation for it. And some of my clients have told me like, holy shit, this is really cool. His representation, and then I'm done talking, is not the representation for all folks on the spectrum though. That's just one dude.
Correct.
Just one dude. So there's some of it. But that's not what the show's actually about, right? You guys know, you can talk about what the show's about if you want to. It's about dead people.
I think I like that you just said that because he also says that in the show. He's like, I have autism spectrum disorder, and like that means some things for me, not for others, something else for others. But this is like my experience with it, and I think like that getting that information, episode 1, like a little bit of information on, it's not Asperger's, just does not exist anymore. It's autism spectrum disorder. It's not what you're learning about on TikTok. And, it's a different experience for everyone. I was like, you are hitting all of these very important details in like a 20-minute sitcom. And
like really early on in the first episode was really cool.
So I think some shows that have maybe an autistic person being portrayed on it don't get any of that right in like 10 seasons. And it's just like, so I think that also, drawing us in was like, okay, like this seems more legitimate. This seems more researched. This seems more personal.
Yeah.
And I think we all can say that was appreciated.
I agree.
Yeah. And I also liked how in the show, I would agree, Portia. I think like when we do see autism on the screen, and they're talking about, oftentimes, at least from what I've seen, it can be more of the like cold, socially awkward version. Whereas I liked in this show, he was a little socially awkward, but not like in the way I guess I've seen it portrayed at other times. And I also loved how it showed him sort of talking to his girlfriend and how he was really interested and sort of being curious and open to how what he says might land and wanting to do a little better. Like when she would say like, obituaries aren't weird. Some people find that it brings them closure and, they can remember their loved one. And he came back and said to Nell like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like I kind of liked seeing that.
So he develops this cognitive like empathy at that moment in time. For a lot of folks on the spectrum, it's black or white in one direction. And then someone teaches you something, you're like, oh, so now I'm in your shoes. Now I get it. Now I get why you would think or say that or feel that. And so for a lot of my clients, me specifically, that's what it takes. Is someone to give us this other reference point, this other data point. And now like, oh, okay, so it can be way over here. There was the one scene, Spencer, we'll show this in like our pod. But it's hilarious. He's like, so he sits down at the wine bar with all the girls. And he's like, I learned all this stuff about wine because I read this one episode of Cosmo. And it said that, women's number one thing that they love is wine.
So I learned all about it.
He learned literally everything about wine, everything.
He's like a sommelier.
Yes.
Like decades for
sommelier.
People to be.
He's like, and then I started dating her. She doesn't even like wine. And he's like, what the fuck?
Like, why did I do that?
This was a bad choice.
I could have did so many other things. It's like when I show people my toy collection, I'm like, why did I show them this?
Or I also loved like right at the beginning. So just to like talk a little bit about the premise of the show. So it focuses on the main character, Nell, played by Gina Rodriguez, who is like coming back from living abroad where I think she went to England or something to be with her fiance, was going to marry him, blah, blah, blah. Needless to say, the relationship didn't work out. So she's coming back home and going back to the job she had before as a writer or reporter for a paper. And yet like all the people she worked with before have moved on. They've like, elevated their role. And now she's placed on the obituaries. And she's like, what? And then at the same time, she's living with Edward, her roommate. who is played by Rick Glassman, who is an actor who identifies as being on the autism spectrum. And then his character is also on the autism spectrum. So that's who we're going to really focus on today.
Yep.
And then also she sees dead people. Okay. So like basically whoever's obituary she's writing, they're like following her around and coming to her to teach her things, I think. And so that's also like an interesting twist, but that's kind of the premise of the show. And I also just think like right away, like in his apartment, we see that, you know, he has a lot of rigid rules, a lot of rigid ways he likes things to be done. You know, he's got like the sensor on the thermostat, the little Post-its in the fridge. But what I really liked was all of his piles. You know, he's like an environmental lawyer. And I think like you probably do have a lot of piles like that when you're a lawyer. But it just was interesting to see her try to navigate like wanting a table and like trying to navigate their space together. And I was curious, you know, what you guys thought of that whole depiction right from the get-go.
Spence, no, I want you to talk. What is it? So let's say you were to move in, or someone was to move in with you and they started moving all your shit around.
It's not good.
Oh, and just, I guess, actually, before you jump in, Spence, to give our listeners a little more background, you both identify as being on the autism spectrum, correct?
I never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Yeah.
The bubble follow me. Yeah.
Yes. We are both autistic as hell. There you go. Okay.
There you go. Autistic as hell, diagnostic criteria met.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I saw a counselor. They was, you know, in a corner somewhere and they said autistic as hell.
And I just trust the fact that he said I was. So I was like, okay.
I believe you.
All right. I mean, you've seen it a lot, I guess. I mean, why not?
I've seen it all.
You know, hey, if a doctor tells me I got a broken arm, I'm going to say probably, you know.
So again, as your perspective as individuals with autism, now watching Edward portraying autism, yeah, Spencer, what would it be like if someone moved in and moved all your shit around?
You know, there are specific places. There are specific things for specific places, right? And so, hey, I have to, for my memories, I want to leave that stuff there because that's where I saw it last. And so that's where I know where it is. I think the bad part if somebody moves something is if they don't tell me. That's the one thing, right? Like if you don't tell me where you moved it, I'm looking for it. I was like, I swear it was here. It's like, oh, I moved it. Where?
Why?
Where did you move this? Where is this? I have this thing with like my mom all the time where she's like, okay, hey, hey, why don't you go find like oh yeah, I need a bandage. Oh, hey, yeah, the bandages. Let me go look for them. And I'm like, why can't we have like a specific place for the bandages, you know? And it sometimes it gets to you a little bit, but I think it's a great just a great way to show the different levels of autism. And I've had plenty of people where, you know, yes, they are like a little bit more OCD and they want to know exactly where things are. I've had a lot of friends who actually just scatterbrained and just put anything anywhere. So like you said, it's a spectrum. So everybody's kind of different.
Yep. It can be on either or. And I think the thing is to get more like the mental health thing in it, is you move something of maybe one of ours. And so it's extremely deregulating when we can't see it or we don't know where it's at. We had it in one specific place. Well, now we needed it. And now delays our time. And now our anxiety goes up and now we can't find it. Now we're going to be late for something, right? There's a lot of different variables that people really don't understand when something is jarring to us. And so it deregulates our nervous system. And then now we have to recover, but we also still have to find that object and move on. And so having a systematic thing allows the world to be less chaotic. And when there's less chaos, then we can function in our routine and our habits, our rituals. And there's a lot of folks that are ADHD that do this. They like have things. It's everywhere. Shit's everywhere, but it's everywhere. And they know where everything's at. Or at least that's what they like to tell people. You know, everything's terrible. So they say.
Allegedly.
You know, I know where it is, you know. Well, that's one of the biggest things is it can be just deregulating when people come into your space and start moving stuff around. So like my father, also he is disabled with a neuromuscular issue. But everything's in a specific place that we can get it easy access. But also he's autistic as hell too. And so if it's not in that place, he's like, why are the scissors not here? Again, it's disturbing, deregulating. So I think that's what is cool with him, Edward, said he's got all these piles, right? And all these different things. Well, he needs to be a little bit more obsessive because of his job. You got to remember, he's also very passionate too, though, about the environment.
Right.
Very passionate. And you'll see that in the later episode when like this girl he's dating is like, what can one person do? Like the environment doesn't mean anything. He's like, oh my God, I hate her.
And it's like that.
Quick.
Yeah. He literally says she's killing all the turtles. So I wanted to make mention of that, the deregulation, and then all the different like variables that people have to think about when something is not in the place that they had.
And I think at least clinically, I see that as well, or I don't maybe see it as much anymore, but I remember my training, like working on the child adolescent units, when we would have patients on the unit with more severe types of autism spectrum disorder, where it's like that. But if it's like when your routine gets changed or there's something out of the ordinary, like this would happen a lot when, if these were young children, if their primary caregiver was going away for a weekend, for example, or something like that, it would be very dysregulating. So in a lot of ways, that's kind of exactly what you're talking about, but taking it from like the concrete sense of the stuff around you, the stuff you can see, to more of that like abstract sense about, you know, your time, expectations, predictability, stuff like that can be really challenging.
For sure.
Yeah. It seemed like he was what I kind of took for like masking when he was dating his girlfriend, right?
Yes.
So he was like, we see her get up to go to the bathroom and he like immediately moves the cup that she put down, not on a coaster, to on a coaster, or in a different area. And you see him kind of like getting, I would say, you could see him dysregulated, and he's like holding it all in and like being really appearing to be really open and like fine. And he puts all of his hobbies away and he's this totally different person, which then I keep wanting to say Gina, but not Gina Rodriguez, Nell, which Nell starts to be like, that's weird.
Doing?
Like, you're okay with her doing that? Like, but you told me I couldn't do that. And I think that, you know, it's exhausting. We see him say, I'm so tired after these weekends. And I think like there's a lot of expectations and, you know, kind of the push and pull in the field of like, right, how much are we as neurotypical should change, right? Someone with autism, and like what's appropriate, what's not, what are good expectations to have, where are we doing, what's it called, like the behavior modification. There's been definite
Applied
changes
behavior
over
analysis.
the years. And kind of like things that we're not liking that have been occurring. So I think I didn't know if you guys could talk a little bit about that for our listeners, to provide some like education, just about what is masking, how it can be exhausting, and just the expectations about, you know, being, you know, in a world that's neurotypical and kind of existing.
For sure. I'm gonna go ahead and say a few things. I'm gonna kick to Spence to talk a little bit more about what is masking. So when you're talking about autism, everyone has these different words on how to identify what it is. Or is it person first, person with autism? Some folks just like saying I'm autistic, or I'm autistic as hell, autistic AF. Some folks will say, you know, the lower functioning, higher functioning, we don't say anymore. It's more, you say higher support needs or lower support needs. Because a lot of things that we see autism to is just the ableism in it. And so that's why we created this whole line of merch, not trying to publicize the merch, but just be different. So there's different versions of ability, right? We're all on this different abilities, differing abilities. And so when you see autism and like folks will say, you know, it's more severe, or it is more severe, but there's more neurological issues. There's more cognitive issues that is there. That's not just the autism. That's a bunch of other stuff too.
Right.
So people who think autism is, you know, it's a disability. And for a lot of folks, it is. Some folks it's not.
Right. It could be a strength in certain ways.
Correct. And then some folks don't like that either, because now you're talking about superpowers, and then that negates all the people that are super struggling with it. So what I found out when you're talking about autism is no one's happy. As someone that just commented on one of our posts.
You should have merch that says that. Maybe we'll have merch that says that. No one's happy, and everyone sees ghosts.
That's America. No one's fucking happy. Let's be real.
Hashtag.
Yeah, everyone's masking. So more background. Our podcast is majority women listeners, or women identifying listeners that are neither neurodivergent or black and brown. And by majority, I mean 80%. I assume your following probably has a really high rate of women listeners as well. And so this masking really ties into women, because they're starting to study it more and more. Because my dissertation was, why are women aren't getting diagnosed? But now they are getting diagnosed at a high rate and clip. Well, it's because there's more education, there's more things going on, right? But women appear different in different ways. People don't really know why. Maybe it's testosterone, but a lot of it goes back to masking and the gender expectations for women versus men.
For sure.
And how we allow, women to be or not to be, unless we keep, training and training and training, be more empathetic, be more kind, be more understanding. Also shut the hell up, where the boys can just run around and do whatever they want. And so you're trained to be this empathetic perfectionist where the boy can be like the little idiot just running around. Not all the boys are little idiots running around. I'm just talking out loud, thinking out loud. So then ties in this masking, which is correlated with the highest rates of like anxiety and depression, because like Edward, you're exhausted.
Yeah, for sure.
So Spence, me and you talk about it all the time. What the hell is this masking thing?
Yeah. I mean,
and do you do it?
Everyone does it. What are you talking about?
Everyone does it. Good point.
Literally, everyone does it. So nobody's alone in that fact. I actually have a friend who suffers from anxiety. Also, had depressive in there too. She actually saw our show, right? And she started correlating these different things that she does and that other people do and things like that. And it was just like, I might have autism. And I was like, yeah, I would say so. Yes. Very into D&D, very into, just like if something kind of like goes off like a certain path that she's used to, then she kind of deregulates like we talk about. So I was like, yeah, totally. You're autism. And I talk to her all the time about how, do you mask? And she's like, all the time, all the time. And it's so, and honestly, when we've talked about this before, where that masking also causes the anxiety,
For sure.
that being way more depressing because
For sure.
you're trying to be something you're not in front of people, and you're just trying to get by, and that's just it's just so tiring, right?
For sure.
And I think a lot of the times when people are diagnosed with autism, they have some excuse me, sorry, churro. When you are actually diagnosed with this, you have something to relate it back to, and you actually have something that you can connect to and say, okay, this is why I'm doing this. Maybe I should stop doing that, or try at least a little bit less and less, so that then I can be a little bit happier in my day to day. I go through that. I mean, I go through it, trying to get. I'm terrible at job interviews. I'm like the worst job interviewer ever. Shout out to all the people that might hire me out there. But I'm bad at it because I'm trying to mask, and it sounds like I'm disingenuous when I do it.
Yep.
That's what it sounds like. And, that's why I like having conversations during interviews. They're a lot better. And also I don't have to remember like a shitload of things to try and, get this job, even though I know I can do it. And if you give me some time, instead of just like being in the moment, I can do it for you.
Yeah.
And that's how, and we've also talked about this, about how a lot of people who have autism are jobless, because we have to try and get those, we have to try and be kind of on the norm, but it's a very hard thing to do sometimes.
Yeah.
The job interview stuff is tough. So the statistics right now are like roughly 90% of folks that are diagnosed on the spectrum are unemployed. And that is like, it's horrific. So the ranges could be anywhere from 70 to 90%.
Wow.
It's because we live in a very ableistic world. Like how some folks can't drive. Some folks can't take the bus. Some folks need medication and they can't get it. Some are very terrible in interviews. Like I'm magnificent in interviews, but I also am like terrible at interviews sometimes. And I don't know what to do. So that leads to it. Also, masking is normal for everyone, like Spencer said. But what we call it is code switching. So everyone knows what code switching is when it comes to race, but everyone actually does it when it comes to like women being in these spaces as well. Y'all have to code switch on the podcast. You have to code switch at work, because if you act this way, you'll be seen as too feminine, crazy, emotional.
Yes.
You're going to be seen as a B word, right? I mean, histrionic. If I act a certain way as a big, large brown dude, I'm going to be seen as aggressive, thug, violent, scary. So I have to feminize myself all the time, where y'all have to be more stoic and reserved. I'm being more feminine more bubbly.
Right.
Because when I
Yeah.
walk down the hallway and they're like, why aren't you smiling? Which my boss said, and I love her to death, my old boss. Why aren't you smiling? I was like, I don't know. She's like, something wrong? I was like, I'm going to take a crap.
I'm not thrilled.
I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. She's like, oh, okay. I just never seen you look like this. I'm like, I'm literally just walking woman. And so code switching, we know what this is, but we know it can burn us out. And this is what a lot of us of color talk about, putting on this white skin suit and then going into work.
Yeah.
But the person that you are, and this is why I tell all my folks on the spectrum that work with me, the person that you are, you have all the different entities that live inside of you. And you're just choosing which one to act like. Some of my folks on the spectrum actually enjoy the mask because they can put on a role and a character and go do their job and people please. And then when they come home, they can be their normal self that's like super anxious. So when they memorize that role, they're good at that role. But they can't always do that role when they get home because now they're burned out and depressed.
Yeah.
So masking is intense. It's pervasive. It affects everyone, even if you are neurotypical, because everyone wants to fit in. Everyone hates themselves because the media and competition and humans have polluted everything. So the reason why Spencer is talking about being more authentic and getting diagnosed, because it allows you to just sit in your autism, maybe this is okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I can just be me and other people will love it. And as we know, like folks with Edward that are autistic, most of your friends, if you're autistic, are going to be either neurodivergent or autistic. We tend to congregate or coagulate with each other. It's the same thing for BIPOC folks, queer folks, right? Women, men. We all go to our certain very segregated entities. But the cool thing is with neurodivergent folks, we get along with each other. And so Edward, and you got Nell, who's definitely neurodivergent as shit.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wanted to hear what you think about now.
Definitely neurodivergent as shit. Besides the hallucinations.
Like in a different way. Yeah.
She definitely has
trauma disorder.
Definitely a generalized anxiety disorder. Definitely like a little bit of PTSD or trauma, but welcome to being like, a brown person and with brown parents. You know what I mean? So her brain is definitely wired differently. Definitely has ADHD, just the way she thinks and vibes and bounces off of people. And she talks so fucking fast, like me. I'm like, girl, I got 100 milligram chill pill.
That's a high dose.
No.
On the daily.
So those are
you
some
might
of
be
the
a
things.
rapid metabolizer.
No.
Well, he doesn't do it orally.
No, but I think Naz, what you're saying is so true about masking that I think all of us can identify with that in some way or another.
100%.
It also reminds me of all the women, at least in my clinical practice, who I end up diagnosing with inattentive ADD, but in their like 30s to 50s.
Yep.
And we talk about how it just wasn't picked up when they were kids because they were the quiet, distractible girl who wasn't causing a ruckus. And they were smart enough to get by until the demand on them they couldn't anymore. Usually I see that in my practice when you start having children or when you're going through menopause and like just the demands on you with your job, your kids, you might be caretaking for elderly parents, things like that. Once it's too much, you just can't function anymore. And I'm not sure about your experience. I would imagine it might be similar though. Like when you receive a diagnosis later in life, on the one hand, it can be so validating. You're like, oh, of course, I totally identify with this. And then on the other, at least a lot of my patients have this like immense grief. Like, man, I lived my whole life not realizing this. I've been carrying around so much shame and anxiety and a lot of times depression. Like a lot of times sort of the diagnoses start to add up together because it just wasn't picked up. And I would imagine at least some people who get diagnosed with autism later in life might experience that too.
100%. But it gets even more polluted because you'll have your clients that will say, okay, so I'm autistic, so I can't have kids. I'm like, why can't you have kids? Because if I have kids, then they're going to be autistic and I don't want to put that on them. So then this eugenics starts to come up where they don't want to pollute the gene pool. I'm like, bruh, those ones are devastating to deal with.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's anger because their parents or other people didn't tell them sooner. Cause like everyone knows that this kid's autistic. Everyone knows. But no one says anything and they just allow them to assimilate, which is fine. But then also would have been really nice for that person to know, that way the relationships could have been better. Like they could have worked on some other things. They would have been more accepting of like who they are and the echolea, different things. I'm thinking of certain individuals I used to work with that were like legit all-American athletes, but no one tells them anything because they're afraid because they don't want to be mean. I have parents that don't tell their children, then they work with me. I'm like, so you're autistic, kid. They're like, nah, man. And then I talk to the parents, it's like, oh yeah, we had him diagnosed at like 5. I'm like, you never told the kid?
No, I know. I really wonder about that.
And they're like high support needs too. I'm like, you didn't tell the kid with high support needs on why he was getting the support? Yeah. So it can be awesome and validating. It also can be terrifying. There could be grief. There could be anger. There could be hostility. People will go, I never tell people to like fully trust me. Who the fuck am I? I'm just some random dude. Go ask your friends. Go ask your family members. Well, let's do some consulting. And then sometimes when they bring it to family members or friends, they're like, no, you're not autistic. So sometimes it backfires on me. Sometimes it does. But then a lot of times it's like super validating and their friends are like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Yep. Or they'll be like, so? I love it when the friends say so. I don't care. Okay. Big deal. You're still you. I don't care what Nas said. I'm like, yes, this is the type of friends you needed. Yeah. I'm also like, girl, your friends are all autistic too. We're going to get to that in session 3.
Well, so before we move on, let's just go through real quick in broad strokes, the DSM-5 criteria for autism spectrum disorder, just to put it out there. So if anyone's listening to this thinking like, I'm resonating with some of this, or just in general, I think a lot of people might be like, what is it? So the way we define it these days is persistent deficits in social communication and social interactions across multiple contexts. So again, this isn't something that's happening just with like one person in your life. It's sort of more pervasive. And some examples of that would be deficits in social emotional reciprocity. So for example, a difference in like back and forth conversations or having trouble reading someone else's nonverbal cues and responding to them. That can be challenging, as well as some difficulty developing, maintaining, and understanding relationships. And we kind of see that with Edward and Nell. And yet what I really liked is that we also saw that it didn't like entirely get in the way. This isn't the character we sometimes see with autism who like has no friends or like, you know, is driving everyone nuts. Like it's kind of like lovable about him. You can work with it. And I did really like that we saw that. Another criteria would be restricted and repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities. I think that's the thing that comes to the mind for most people probably, are like these stereotyped repetitive motor movements, what we might call hand flapping, stereotyped actions like lining up toys, like when children are playing, instead of playing with the cars, they might really enjoy just lining them up the same way over and over. And then sometimes there's also stereotyped speech. So saying the same phrase kind of over and over, or things like that. This is also where that insistence on sameness, that inflexibility can come up. I see you're laughing, Naz. What's up?
Because Spencer knows I am just terrible.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I just get things stuck in my head, and then
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
And if he gets a song stuck in his head, he will not shut up.
Like
ever.
Single Ladies?
Oh God.
What was the last song that you were doing?
No, it's the One Tree Hill. I don't want to be anything. So that was stuck in my head for like a
that
month.
Teddy Geiger song.
Yeah.
I had to hear that for like a week.
Yeah, that was intense. I'd literally just be screaming it in the hallway, and people are like, the repetitive movements. Real quick, I want to go back to that. So a lot of it, what you'll see is the rocking, and you'll think that they're having like a panic attack or so they're anxious. No, they're just vibing, doing their own thing, just rocking. Sometimes it will be more pervasive, like it's intense. But for a lot of folks, it's just like playing with their beard, like me, twirling their hair. For me, I constantly bite the inside of my lips, not the lips, but like the inside of my mouth. I'll just cheek. The cheek, I'll just be kind of picking at it.
Yeah.
You'll get your trichotillomania stuff in there too. Like, oh, that's OCD. Okay. Well, that's one data point that might lead to like an autism diagnosis. That's one data point.
For sure.
So there's a lot of different things that other people can do. Fidgeting, leg rocking. A lot of it feels ADHD-ish when it comes to stimming. Also, you'll see the people that tuck their hands under their legs, or they'll curl up into a ball in your office. That's a different version of stimming too, or compression, we like to call it. Stimming's a wide range of things other than just the hand flapping. The hand flapping you rarely see unless someone is exacerbated in emotions. So they're either really happy, Then they'll start to stutter a little bit more. Maybe the echolale will come out a little bit more, which is kind of the repetitive verbal behavior. Or they're like super anxious. And then that's when they start to get more, outside the box. So there was that cool point about that one. And then the repeating things. Holy shit, man. If I was actually to say all the things that I repeat, like I would not say anything other than just random shit.
Like in your head, you mean?
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking stuff all the time. Like you say one thing and I'm like, I have like 5 different jokes I want to say, a couple cancelable things. Like there's like 7 movie quotes. And I just sit
so is
there.
that an example of masking, if you don't mind me asking, that
Yes.
you have learned not to say those things?
Oh, well, for one, yeah.
Or that you hold yourself back?
How would you have a conversation if you're always interrupting? I would be canceled immediately for some of the intrusive things that I would say.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something here, girlie. Let me not go there.
Well,
Yep.
hey.
But I think that just goes to show, like, even in, I guess, ways like that, like when you're always, like you're saying, it's just mentally really draining, I'd imagine, to always be checking yourself.
And you just don't want to hurt anyone too.
Yeah.
And some folks that are on the spectrum will have like an intrusive and impulsive thought and they're like, oh, I'm a piece of shit. No, I just know this is how my brain works and I just need to tune that out, focus back on you. So I'll laugh and Spencer picks it up that I'm laughing with y'all and he's like, shut up, Nas.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't you say it. The election was rigged. You
should have won. He should have won.
Oh, God.
Can't they just all go away? Just let them all go away.
Let me get this hat for you real quick.
Oh,
There
my
you
God.
go. There you go.
It's a red hat. It says be a man, but it looks like a Magna
I love
hat.
that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I like that.
See?
You guys are good at merch.
That's him.
I love that. Oh my God, I love that. I know I've seen some of your shirts and stuff, and I love it so much,
Real quick.
especially for men.
I want to ask something, and then we're gonna get back to DSM. So
Yeah.
I've noticed that you're the heavy talker like I am, and then
Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry, Portia.
and then Portia is more like
comes in with the
Spencer.
support.
So Portia, is that kind of the vibe on how it always is? Because I'm like, y'all give off an autistic vibe too. Don't get it twisted now.
I think when we have guests, I just talk less, and I think Katrina talks more. I think when it's just us two, I think it's split. But that's my noticing.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
don't
not
know.
split over
I think
here.
I'm not quick to like jump in. I think I am thinking of something to say, waiting for a pause, and sometimes the pauses don't come. So,
Oh, sorry. You gotta be more mindful of that.
So I need to also work on, right?
I also
Jumping
always
in
drink
more.
a cold brew on podcast days to try to be more entertaining. So maybe that makes me a little too impulsive or
Okay.
talkative.
Well, we're gonna
And I don't drink any
excuse your.
caffeine. I'm
Okay.
very undercaffeinated.
There you
I'm
go.
over caffeinated.
Quiet.
Well,
It's a good medium.
you doctor, we're gonna excuse your misogyny here and let the women talk now. Okay.
Yeah. Women can get jobs too. Okay.
Turns out, not according to that football player that's going all over social media right now.
Oh my God, I wanted actually to kind of talk about that, but we'll get that towards the end. Like, what the hell?
Okay.
That was like the worst shit in the world. Like, I was furious.
It just kept getting worse.
I know.
Like it just kept like no one cut off the mic.
No, they wanted him to go, and then they start talking
People
about queer
were
folk.
giving standing ovations. Like people.
Oh,
were
I missed that
cheering.
part.
Oh no, they
I
loved
thought
it.
that was booing.
Yeah.
No, they loved it.
Oh,
They loved it.
well, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. Well, some folks need to be stroked right out.
Well,
A different
Yeah.
way. All right, so let's wrap up the boring DSM stuff.
Oh,
So
no,
again,
you could have kept going through it. I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. I like to hear, what
Two
you have
forces.
to say. You don't have to apologize at all. So some other sort of examples of those restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, again, are highly restricted fixated interests of intense focus. So kids might be really focused on like a certain show, for example, or certain like airplanes, or like in the show with Edward, the wine. He learns everything about the wine. And we see that too sometimes in ADHD. So I just want to point that out, that there is a high comorbidity of autism spectrum disorder and ADHD. And like you're saying, you can see some of these symptoms with things like OCD. And so it is really important to get a really good evaluation if you're wondering about this for yourself or for your child, because some of these things can cross over.
yeah, don't just use TikTok. I have so many
Please,
patients
please.
who are teens who come in like at least I don't know if it's every new patient who's a teen. I don't want to, use a all or nothing statement, but I get really itchy when I have with a tag. Do I have autism? And I'm like, same. Like if something's poking me in my neck, like that's annoying. Yes, to the level of response, to the level of dysregulation, to the level of being able to move on. Sure, but like you said, like that's maybe one data point. Like let's look
Correct.
at your, social life. Let's look at how you, can be in chaos or not, or environments that feel good to you. And I think like then like at least for me, like 9 times out of 10, it's like, I don't really think you have autism. I think you have anxiety and you have like typical sensory responses to unpleasant stimuli, like most people do. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, I think TikTok has done a lot for normalizing and giving some information to the masses. Great. And, not everyone has borderline personality disorder. Not everyone has autism. Not everyone has ADHD. So.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
And also with that, I just think that, like you said, too much of a good thing can be pretty bad, can be detrimental. You don't want to go for every fact to go on TikTok. You don't want to do that. You don't want to go on the internet in general for every fact,
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get stuck. And I saw something recently about couple influencers that are going to be suing the government because they're trying to get rid of TikTok, and they're like, this is where we get a lot of information, and this is and I'm like, okay, yeah, you get a lot of information, but not all of it's A, valid, and then B, not all of it's going to be true. There are probably a lot of TikTok accounts that say that autism is not real, and that it's all
due to
a big
vaccines.
scam. Yeah, exactly. So let's not try to act like TikTok is like in general. Let's not try to act like TikTok is just like this be all know all. Yeah, it's not. It's it's a nice platform where people can come on and be part of a community. But at the same time, it can also be very detrimental to other things that are happening outside of that. So
Again,
for sure.
Yep. I love talking about it with my students because, I start to bully them then. Oh, okay. TikTok now. Oh, you're TikTok doctor. Okay.
TikTok doc.
TikTok doc.
30 seconds. That's all it took to really hook you in. Huh?
And you got autism already. But it's some funny stuff. So like you said, it's one data point when it comes to autism, Portia. And then, but now you start looking into all the family history. Now you start looking at their mind and how does their mind work. So a lot of therapists won't actually look at how their mind works and how they itemize things or organize things, how they experience other humans, how they empathize. Is it cognitive or is it emotional? Is your mirroring too much to where you're like destabilizing and crying? How's your pathological demand avoidance? Like there's so many different things in autism that the assessment is intense. So if you're doing a psychological assessment, half the time it's not even going to pick up that you're autistic anyways. Not for the women, because it's made by white dudes for white dudes.
Like everything.
Correct. And so it's not going to pick up women. And I'm not going to lie, I suck at diagnosing my people of color. Suck at it. White person, white bodied individual, white woman, I'm really good at it. But since I don't get a lot of representation of autism that is brown bodied, then my scales are thrown off. And my algorithm really in my mind on humans is thrown off. It's the same thing that happens to y'all when I'm not going to say y'all, to many doctors when they're working with black or brown bodies, they're like, oh, you're fine. They have severe functioning depression as a black or brown individual. And it's interesting on how even for me, a Mexican and Arab, second generation American still struggles to diagnose folks of color. And I have like some clients that'll hit me up later on in their life. They're like, Nas, am I autistic? After I'm not working with them anymore. And I'm like, you know what? I can't say if you are or you're not. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, you were. I know more now. You are. You need to get assessed. Because I didn't know a lot then. And now that I've been working with such high rates of people of color and international individuals, I'm like, oh, and then I finished the dissertation. I'm like, oh, I know so much more. I didn't get to tell so many people. I'm trying to tie all this in because what Portia was talking about, the stuff is complicated and TikTok has been magnificent. But what Spencer was saying, it's also been horrific in many ways because a lot of that stuff on there is just like stupid.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
I think we could agree.
It's just dumb.
It's just dumb dances. Some things are super sexualized. Like, I mean, do your thing, but like still like In China, it's all educational. Like, I don't fully agree with that either because it's super restrictive. But it's all educational. Over here, most of it is not used for education.
Mm-hmm.
And in saying that, it's been really prominent in social issues, social justice issues, things that are going on now with like war and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that's getting spread through TikTok movements. And so I appreciate TikTok. I'm not going to shit on it completely, but also there's some major issues with it, specifically for folks that are autistic or ADHD, because they will lose hours and hours and hours and it hurts their executive functioning.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And so I love it, hate it. Right. And so I'm really good at talking about things surface level, right? But then when I get deep in like an autism rant right now, like I am, and some of my coworkers are like, holy shit, I didn't know you were smart. That's because I never talked to you guys about anything real. So yeah, I hate all of you.
That was a good game last night. Yes.
Yeah. How about the weather, Mr. White Man?
I hear it's going to rain this weekend.
Yeah.
That great water cooler talk.
Yeah.
Great.
Weather.
Sure.
It's really interesting though when you work by yourself because like
who do you talk to?
I know.
Just Portia.
But just Portia. Or like then when I go out into the world, like I'm at the pharmacy picking up prescriptions and I'm like, how was your day? You know, I'm like really like I need some like more social interaction. And it's just an interesting way to go about the world sometimes. Like not everyone really wants to tell a stranger like how their day is going.
Like it was good. Can we move on here? I have to get to
I'm like, no, tell me more.
Yeah. You would be the bubbly version. Not saying that you are. You would be the bubbly, more ADHD version of autism. And Portia is now the more stoic, reserved, like chill, quiet. I'm not going to interrupt because there's no pause. That's why I brought that up earlier, not to cause any strife. I just wanted to show people that if you two were, then this would be the representation, the dichotomy, the polarization of it. Because everyone thinks it's just this one thing and it's not a monolith.
Yeah.
It's just like,
no, that's such
there's
a
not
good
a
point.
monolith for like black folks, brown folks, Arabs, Muslims, Jewish folks. There's not a monolith. Everyone's different.
Right.
I do have to share a funny anecdote with that because I am an only child, which
explains a lot.
And I was, I received childcare from this family that we were really close with growing up who had 8 kids.
Jesus.
And I was sitting
literally
at the beach
Jesus.
with them,
Yeah.
a lot of kids. And the mom was like, Portia, like, why aren't you in the water? Like, why are you sitting here? And I was like, well, no one invited me to go into the water. And I feel like that's like just how my brain works with like, I don't like it with talking or interacting or social events. Like I like to observe and see what's going on. And if I have something to say, I'm going to say it, which I then laugh because I'm like, oh, I'm a podcaster, so I should be talking. But I think too, being a therapist, it's a really clear identity. And I think people find then jobs like that work for you. So it's like a really clear role that like I know how to show up for. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then, other social interactions or other things that maybe make me more uncomfortable or that I prefer to kind of like have a different way of operating in them. I think that's just how we kind of find ourselves in where we end up.
Yeah.
And talking about ableism and ableistic spaces, though, I think that there's plenty of spaces for neurotypical people to find a role that feels good to them in. And, there's not so many places for others who do not kind of fit the mold of a white man to or a typical white man to kind of fit into. But yeah, I don't know, just thinking about roles and stuff and where we feel comfortable.
So the reason, again, why I broached this topic is because I'm so used to scanning and making sure everyone's getting an equal piece to the pie. Being autistic and neurodivergent, you're making sure I have to shut up and not keep going. And so I have to make sure that I pivot for my other friends that are like not as verbal. Well, with Spencer, we do a podcast. Fucking, I'm like that. Yeah, no. But for other folks,
it's like you never shut up.
You raise your hand, goddamn it.
You made it a segment to have a story time before the story time, the pre-story time.
I like to warm it up. No, but that's the inner dialogue. It's like, oh, did they talk? It's like if you were a point guard on the team, did you make sure that everyone touched the basketball before someone shot? Is everyone getting equal opportunity? Because then there's more buy-in. And this is what I have to teach a lot of my clients is the reciprocity in dialogue. And one of my girls yesterday, she's like, I think I'm talking way too long to some of my friends. I was like, honey, I can guarantee you are. because you're doing it right now. It's the end of the session, and I've literally just talked for the first time. So that's why I cut into you, because I'm thinking about all my other clients and making sure that my other kids are being heard, my nonverbal kids, because they need to be part of the conversation too. And sometimes they freak out because then I'll call them and they're like, oh my God, why have you done this?
No, I think that's a
Literally.
great point. I think that's a great point.
Yep.
Well, so as we wrap up today, anything else on your minds before we sort of let our audience know where to find you?
Spencer's face. You're such an idiot.
What?
Check out the show, right? It's a good representation of something, what an autistic person may look like, the day, the life, the rituals, but just one version. I think to back away from the monolithic view of what autism is probably the best thing. And when you're looking at folks, there's data points. There's not just one. Don't just say eye contact. Maybe they tiptoe walk. Maybe there's different meds and dyslexia, dyscalculia. Maybe they have face blindness. I mean, there's a bunch of different stuff that goes into autism other than just severe cognitive disability, other than just severe executive functioning issues. So that's what our podcast is about. We also talk about everything else, but like we try to hammer down those things. And there's a million different autism podcasts. Ours is probably not going to be everyone's favorite because we are completely unmasked and we're like two dudes talking and we swear and we curse, but we laugh a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing those things as us being like real and authentic like we are with you today, then what's the point of doing the podcast and talking about autism affirming practices?
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
And so some folks will come on the show and they're like, this is a blast. Well, it's supposed to be. Because everything you've been doing on other podcasts is masking. So why would I force you to do that when I don't want to do that? And I've watched your pod. Y'all don't do a lot of masking. You're doing a lot of good. You do more intellectualizing, like therapeutic shit than we do sometimes. which is good. I'm working with Spencer. I don't have the talent.
You don't have the talent.
I don't have the
We
talent.
can use some of Spencer's SEO talent.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, he's good at that. Talking and
Well, so if you would like to hear more about the Different Spectrums podcast, please check them out. Again, your new episodes come out twice a week. That's awesome. And can you just let everyone know where to find you on social media so they can check everything out?
Yeah. So if you want to go to Different Spectrums Podcast, we're on Instagram. We have a TikTok. We're on Facebook. We're on X.
Are you on LinkedIn? I keep hearing
we are on
LinkedIn's the
LinkedIn.
new thing. See?
we're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we're getting on there. And then we are also on, what's that last one? It's like X, but not
Pinterest?
no. What's that other one called?
I don't know, man. You said them all.
It's like Twitter, but not Twitter.
Threads.
There you go.
Thread.
Oh, Threads.
Threads. Yeah, we're on everywhere. So go check us out. Different
Nice.
Spectrums Podcast. We have a link tree. We're also sponsored by great company called BetterHelp. So go check them out.
Awesome.
10% off your
shout out.
first therapy session.
Oh my
So
gosh.
use the code DSP. plug. Yeah, that's
We
it.
love it.
And you can find us at Analyze Scripts Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And we'll catch you next Monday. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh yeah, we have a YouTube. Sorry.
Oh my God. Shut up.